So some people think suffering is redemptive. I don't think suffering is redemptive. I don't think there's anything particularly good about suffering. But suffering often tells you something's wrong and there's a problem that needs to be addressed. And to the degree that you can do something about the problem, then yeah, you could say it's redemptive, right? Because you had a problem and you redeem yourself by fixing it. Okay. Like if you always find yourself agitated when you're not drinking, then obviously, you got to find some way to fix the agitation problem without drinking, right? For example. Pain is information, but sometimes there's nothing good about it. If you have end-stage bone cancer, right, and your body's riddled with tumors that have metastasized throughout your body, then there's nothing good about the pain. The pain doesn't make you more holy. You're dying. You're just suffering. For some people, every day is miserable, and they may have pain meds, they may take Dilaudid or morphine, and that just lets them feel like average at best, or it deadens the pain slightly, allows them to, but also makes them sleepy and sometimes makes them constipated or whatever. They're suffering, and it sucks, and there's nothing glorious, holy, or redemptive about it. You're suffering and you're dying, and that's it. I remember growing up, if I was having a hard time, I was told to offer it up. Offer it up to God. God loves your pain. Give it to Him as a sacrifice. Which is really, to me, very morbid. As though God loves it when you suffer. In fact, the more you suffer, the more God is pleased, because they have so much more suffering to give Him. Performative suffering. No, I'm not into that. I used to think that if you suffered enough, God will grant you favors when I was young. To the degree that I remember my dad got a lottery ticket, a Megabucks ticket, or Powerball, I can't remember. I was a kid. And I was sure he's going to win if I suffered enough, if I traded enough pain. So it was wintertime, I was running up and down the snowbank on my hands and knees, galloping up and down, exhausting the hell out of myself, suffering, physically just running myself, to the point of muscle failure. And I thought if I suffered enough, then God would give my father a winning lottery ticket. Right? It's ridiculous. And look, I appreciate what people say when they say, okay, if something's troubling you and you can't fix it, give it to God. Okay, that's a way of detaching. If you say, God, please take care of this, I can't. It is a way of psychologically detaching from your suffering. A Buddhist might just say, just accept the fact there's nothing you can do about it. Same end. Different means same end. And some people can emotionally, intellectually detach from the suffering, but some people cannot. And understandably, if it's in your face all the time, right? If you're dealing with constant pain, for example, from bone tumors, your whole life can be agony, and there's no escaping from it. The only escape you get is when you pass away. Now, let's move on to something a little more relevant. We got fuel prices going up. We've been dependent on a global supply chain for fertilizer, for fuel, for a lot of the basic necessities of life. Not to mention just within our country, within America, within this empire, the 48 contiguous states we've been dependent on. Our vegetables coming from, California and Arizona, Texas, these warm places that are warm most of the time, that can constantly grow food for us. Florida has citrus fruits and so on. And so we have this nutrition we built around this just-in-time delivery of stuff that's shipped thousands of miles. And with high fuel costs and with fertilizer shortages and, and whatever, weather patterns, really strong El Nino or whatever, these things are getting disrupted. We're having a polycrisis of food and fuel, and political instability. All these things are going to stack on each other, right? Climactic shifts. And so it's going to hurt. We're going to suffer. There's nothing glorious about that suffering. It's nothing holy about it, but it is an information to say, okay, why are we suffering? Because we're dependent on a logistical system that's fragile, and we need to build local systems that are more resilient. So, that would mean growing vegetables and growing potatoes and whatnot close to home, so you have a more reliable food supply. Learning to make your own fertilizer, planning our trips better, maybe carpooling, trying to make better use of the fuel that we have. It could be insulating your house if you heat with kerosene or number 2 or whatever, or heat with propane. And, insulating, dealing with that drafty window now rather than putting it off, so that you use less fuel, right? And maybe you switch from oil and gas to a wood stove, because you have plenty of wood providers locally. There's massive forests, they're managed sustainably. You can get in on that and heat your house with wood, and then you have a local supply that's less likely to break down. Maybe you have a large plot of land yourself and plenty of timber you could use, right? So I want to bring it to conclusion, because I got stuff to do. Suffering is information, and useful information, but it's nothing redemptive. It doesn't make you a better person. It does tell you something's wrong, and it may lead you to implement solutions if solutions are available. But if they aren't, or if they're out of your power, then all you're doing is suffering, and there's nothing special about it. It makes you miserable. It doesn't make you better. That's all I got to say. Thanks for watching.